Oh, hey guys. Right now we're gonna watch some scary stories. We're not gonna watch no full 1 hour. All right, just to say. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get this over with.
It was 15 years ago. When I was 11 years old, I used to live with my uncle, who was 31 years old at the time. He took me away from my family, telling them how great I would be if I stayed with him in his farmhouse.
Just like that.
Well, he actually had a really nice farmhouse. However, that was totally fake.
I'll be quiet while
He also
y'all
had a big van that he used to
I'll tell
kidnap
how I
kids
think
in.
about at the
He
end.
usually abducted lost kids, or the kids who were playing in the parks. Yeah, right. He was such a serious kidnapper and murderer. While he was tying up the children after the kidnapping, he ordered me to dig a hole for each one. Of course, I didn't want to do that. I was just horrified and scared of my uncle. One day, I stayed with the kids inside the basement to monitor them. Crying, they were begging to let them go. I could see that some of the kids were almost the same age as my age, so I untied them and let them sneak out by the back door so my uncle couldn't see them. He was in the kitchen sharpening his knives. I returned to the kitchen acting like nothing happened, but somehow when he lifted his head, he noticed through the window that they were running away. He got mad, grabbed his gun, and then he ran out the door trying to shoot them. I immediately ran with him, watching them and hoping that they could manage it. And all of the kids succeeded to run away, fortunately. I could see that one of them even waved to me to say goodbye. My uncle told me not to worry, and that he'd get more kids the next morning. It seemed like that he was thinking that I was the one who was disappointed about the kids' escape, or whatever. The next morning, I woke up and figured out that he was not there. And all of a sudden, I heard a loud siren, and soon after, the police entered inside the farmhouse. They found me and asked me if I was one of those kids who was kidnapped by him. I couldn't lie to him. I always felt sorry for lots of kids who got kidnapped by him. So I told them that I was his nephew, and they took me with them for questioning. I was crying so badly when I confessed the truth about him to the police. It was the hardest moment that I had to give proof of my uncle's serious crime, because I loved him anyway, whether he's a criminal or not. But I knew this day would come, and actually, I was waiting for it. They didn't believe me at first, but I revealed the location of the holes to them. After digging, the police found bodies under the ground. At that time, my uncle got back to my mother's house, hugged her, and begged to stay for a while. However, the police had already told her about the incident and what had happened to me. So she told him he could stay, but as soon as he got to the bathroom to shower, she alerted Dad and they called the police. My uncle was arrested finally, and the police thanked me and told me that I was such a brave kid. They brought me back to my parents, and I could have a better life with them. My uncle was charged with kidnapping, murdering kids, and even showing me such terrible things that kids should not see. He was condemned to death, and not long after, finally hanged. My name is Jonathan.
Well, let's just pause right there. If that happens to me, if it goes to me and tries to make me, or like no, hold up, tongue twist right there. If he tries to make me go in his truck and he tries to tie me up, but I'm gonna beat him up. I'm just gonna punch him in the face until he's knocked out. Until you see ketchup on my hands. Let's go ahead and get on with the video.
I live in an average apartment. There are main roads via my apartment, but there's also a shortcut too, which makes it faster to go to one of my friends, Nick's house. However, the weird thing was that nobody uses the road. I didn't know until I saw something on it that very day. One day, I went to visit Nick as usual.
Hold
We
up.
played some kind
It's not Fortnite.
of games together in his house, having snacks. The outside had become dark, and when I looked at the time, it was almost 10 p.m. Then my mom called me to get back home as soon as possible. She seemed like she got mad, so I packed my stuff quickly. I got out of my friend's house, walked for like 2 minutes, and then I decided to walk through that shortcut lane this time. Because it was completely dark, it gave me a chill, but I was in a rush, so I lighted my phone's flash and walked through the road. It was a straight road, and all the leaves and bushes were on the two sides. And the next moment became the most terrible memory for my entire life. While I was walking alone, my phone's battery suddenly died. Holy crap, I mumbled to myself. But at that moment, I was so freaked out. I made my pace quicker when I heard someone's footsteps. When I looked up, there was a figure in front of me that was almost black and invisible. All lampposts in that road were broken except 2 of them. But those 2 lampposts were flickering continuously, and the figure was slowly walking closer to my side. When the light fell on his face, I could see him, full of scars on his face.
What in the world?
He had a cut in his throat, and the blood is falling out of his cut. I tried to ask him if he needed any help, but then he put his hand on top of his head slowly, and he picked it up. I could see his head was dividing from his body, and he was just standing there, holding his head in one hand and looking straight into my eyes. I couldn't even move because I was so terrified at that moment.
What
All of a
in the
sudden,
world?
his head was laughing loudly and gave a shriek loudly at the very next. I stepped back, and then he came in front of me again with big strides. This time, I could see those 2 lampposts which were flickering above him all went out, and I don't remember anything after that. The next morning when I woke up, I was in a hospital. It turned out that some guy who was jogging around found me unconscious on that road. My mother was sitting next to me with an anxious look, so I told her my entire experience. When I finished telling her, she seemed a little surprised, and then she patted my back. She told me that there was a man who was murdered and beheaded by some gang members on that road a few years ago, but the police could neither find his head nor the criminal. Since then, lots of people saw the same stuff as me, so they stopped using that road. Even now, whenever I go to my home, I still ignore that frightening road and take another long path. It would always make my heart sink, just thinking about that incident itself.
We're just gonna go ahead and end that there. That was just creepy. I'll see y'all later. Bye.